My name is Madison, and today I invite you into the sacred chambers of a soul's metamorphosis, a journey where betrayal became my greatest teacher and intuition my most trusted compass. This is not merely a story of family dysfunction. It's an archetypal exploration of how our deepest wounds can birth our most profound wisdom. In the depths of every human psyche lies an alchemical laboratory where pain transmutes into power, where shadows reveal themselves as hidden gifts, and where the very experiences that seek to diminish us become the crucibles of our transformation. This awakening began in the tree-lined neighborhoods of Berkeley, California, where I was raised in an academically progressive household that unknowingly perpetuated ancient patterns of conditional love. My parents, Dr. Sarah Mitchell and Professor Jonathan Mitchell, had created what Carl Jung might call a family complex, an unconscious system where love flowed through the narrow channels of achievement and favoritism. Our Victorian home on Elmwood Avenue, with its bay windows overlooking the Berkeley Hills, seemed to pulse with unspoken hierarchies. Each of my older brother Tyler's achievements was celebrated like a tribal ritual. Elaborate birthday parties in our garden filled with California poppies, catering from Alice Waters Associates, invitations crafted on handmade paper from local artisans. My milestones existed in whispered margins, a cake from the neighborhood bakery, and hurried congratulations between NPR news updates and organic dinner preparations. Money channeled toward Tyler like the Sacramento River flowing toward the bay, carrying with it all manner of parental projections and unfulfilled academic dreams. Private violin lessons at the San Francisco Conservatory, summer programs at Stanford, top-tier skiing equipment for our Tahoe family retreats. When I expressed my soul's longing for contemporary dance, my parents offered philosophical dissertations about mindful spending and the privilege of gratitude for existing abundance. At 22, Tyler crashed the family Prius, returning intoxicated from a Berkeley fraternity celebration. Rather than natural consequences, he received a newer hybrid vehicle and compassionate reframing. The universe protected you, sweetheart. That's what matters. That same week, when I accidentally broke a piece of local pottery during dinner, I received a 25-minute discourse on mindfulness, intentionality, and reverence for handcrafted artistry. This emotional asymmetry was so pronounced that even our community circle noticed it, always with that distinctly Bay Area smile that normalizes dysfunction through spiritual bypassing. I developed what psychologists call imposter syndrome, the deep-seated belief that something fundamental within me was unworthy of the same unconditional love Tyler received as his birthright. At 31, after completing my master's in transpersonal psychology at Naropa, I established a practice in trauma-informed therapy in San Francisco's Mission District. It was there that I encountered Dr. Marcus Chen, a 33-year-old specialist in somatic healing and ancestral trauma. Marcus possessed what the mystics call clear seeing, the capacity to witness another's soul without attempting to fix or change it, to recognize the wholeness beneath apparent brokenness. Our connection deepened over 5 years of conscious relationship, two healing practitioners learning to love without trying to heal each other. Marcus understood the intricate neural pathways my family had carved into my nervous system, yet he consistently encouraged maintaining familial bonds, believing in the possibility of transforming even the most entrenched generational patterns. In December 2023, during the winter solstice at his family's retreat center in Big Sur, Marcus offered me what he called a symbol of our infinite becoming. Beneath ancient redwoods that had witnessed countless cycles of death and rebirth, under a canopy of stars unpolluted by city light, he knelt and opened a box crafted from sustainable bamboo. The diamond captured moonlight like crystallized intention, 6 carats of ethically sourced brilliance set in recycled platinum of timeless artistry. Marcus later shared that he had mindfully saved for 7 years to offer me this ring, $175,000. A sum representing the materialization of his deepest commitment to conscious partnership. When we arrived at my parents' Berkeley home to share our sacred news, their response activated what trauma therapists call hypervigilance, every cell in my being recognizing danger beneath surface pleasantries. Mother examined the ring with that particular Bay Area expression of spiritual materialism and declared it rather ostentatious for conscious living, and that authentic partnership transcends material symbols. Father barely glanced up from his copy of The New Yorker to murmur that we shouldn't attach too heavily to outcomes because impermanence governs all formations. Tyler, sprawled across our vintage mid-century modern sofa, was scrolling through Instagram stories without acknowledging our presence. His sole response was a distracted, cool, eyes fixed on his screen. 6 months later, we began orchestrating what we called our ceremony of sacred union, planned for October in the Mendocino Redwoods. Everything aligned beautifully. A sustainable venue reserved, farm-to-table catering arranged, invitations printed on seed paper by local artists in Sausalito. In July, my body began transmitting signals that my rational mind couldn't yet decode. Intense abdominal contractions awakened me each dawn, initially subtle but progressively demanding attention. I first attributed this to pre-ceremony anxiety, but the sensations intensified until they completely immobilized my normal functioning. Marcus accompanied me to UCSF Medical Center, where a series of holistic and conventional assessments revealed the presence of significant gallstones. The integrative medicine team explained that surgical intervention was necessary and that I would need to remain hospitalized for 10 days. The procedure was scheduled for the 3rd week of August. Despite my apprehension, Marcus remained my anchor, reminding me that everything occurring was part of our soul's curriculum and that we would soon reunite to co-create our shared vision. 3 days before my hospital admission, something that depth psychologists call prophetic knowing awakened within me. This wasn't anxiety or paranoia, but what indigenous wisdom keepers recognize as cellular intelligence, the capacity to sense energetic movements before they manifest in physical reality. I connected with every instance when my parents had privileged Tyler, with every promise that dissolved into disappointment, with every moment when my innocent trust shattered against their unconscious patterns. Then I contemplated my ring. $175,000. More financial energy than my parents had channeled in years, and most significantly, a symbol of everything they had never been able to offer me, recognition of my inherent worth. In that moment of clarity, what shamanic traditions call divine guidance struck me like lightning illuminating a dark forest. I took my engagement ring and journeyed to San Francisco's Union Square, to those ancient corridors where master jewelers have practiced their craft for generations. I searched with the patience of a mystic until I discovered an almost perfect replica of my sacred symbol. This reproduction cost merely $1,200, yet it was so masterfully crafted that distinguishing it from the original required expert analysis. The weight was nearly identical, the brilliance convincing, the setting perfectly reproduced. I deposited my authentic ring in a vault at Wells Fargo and retained the replica. Marcus remained unaware of this protective ritual. I myself didn't know whether I was following profound intuition or ancestral wisdom awakening from dormancy. The evening before my surgery, spending my final night in my childhood home before hospitalization, Mother suggested, with that feigned concern characteristic of unconscious emotional manipulation, that I remove my ring. Madison, beloved, you're undergoing an invasive procedure. It would be wise to leave this ring here in sacred protection. Imagine if you lost it in the hospital's chaotic energy or someone with unhealed trauma stole it from you. Precisely the words my inner guidance had foreseen. I removed the ring, the replica, and placed it in her hands as though entrusting her with my most precious treasure. Hold this in ceremony, Mother. It represents everything sacred in my being. She accepted the symbol, examined it with that meticulous attention that already revealed her unconscious intentions, and placed it in the drawer of her vintage craftsman dresser. Rest in trust, darling. It shall be protected like the ancient redwoods. The following morning, Marcus accompanied me to the hospital with that loving presence characteristic of conscious souls. The surgery proceeded flawlessly, but my recovery revealed unexpected complexities. Minor complications required extending my stay from 10 to 16 days. During this period of vulnerability, my parents visited me merely twice, always hurried, always with justifications about their important academic conferences and mindfulness retreats. Marcus, embodying unconditional presence, was with me daily, from the opening of visiting hours until their closing. It was Marcus who delivered the information that would catalyze complete revelation. Madison, were you aware that your brother is traveling to the Mediterranean? What do you mean? Your mother mentioned it yesterday. She was absolutely radiant, sharing that he'd received an extraordinary birthday gift. 3 weeks in Mykonos, villa with infinity pool, private yacht included. My nervous system began firing in recognition patterns. Tyler's birthday fell in September, 6 weeks hence. From where could my parents possibly source the financial energy for such luxury? Did she mention how they'd managed to manifest such abundance? Marcus assumed that expression healers develop when perceiving unspoken trauma. She spoke of a synchronistic opportunity that they'd been able to release energy that had been stagnant for ages. In that instant, truth flooded my consciousness like a dam bursting. My parents had sold the ring. More precisely, they had sold what they believed to be my $175,000 engagement ring to materialize Tyler's hedonistic fantasies in the Greek islands. I experienced what Jungian analysts call emotional alchemy, rage at archetypal betrayal, grief seeing my darkest intuitions confirmed, and paradoxically, profound gratitude for having possessed the wisdom to protect my authentic treasure. Throughout the remainder of my hospitalization, I maintained what trauma therapists call strategic dissociation, appearing unaware while internally processing the depth of familial dysfunction. My parents continued their superficial visits, meticulously avoiding discussion of Tyler or family dynamics. When I inquired about my brother, they responded with characteristic spiritual bypassing. He was exploring expanded consciousness and following his highest path. On discharge day, arriving at our family home, Tyler was absent. Mother explained with that pathological maternal pride wrapped in spiritual language that he had departed on a soul journey to the Greek islands. A transformational opportunity manifested spontaneously. She lied with the ease characteristic of unconscious narcissists who believe their own mythology. He'll spend 3 weeks there, integrating ancient wisdom and expanding his consciousness. I continued my performance of naive trust. When I requested my ring, Mother responded that she was holding it in sacred container and would return it when I was fully integrated from my healing journey. 3 weeks later, Tyler returned from Mykonos, transformed by sun and excess, overflowing with stories about his spiritual awakening through luxury consumption. He had frequented the most exclusive beach clubs in paradise, dined at Michelin-starred restaurants overlooking the Aegean, sailed private yachts, and even brought home a new twin flame he'd encountered on the beaches of super paradise. During our Sunday family brunch ritual, he shared images of his supposed spiritual journey on his iPhone, photographs of privileged existence that I knew my family couldn't authentically afford. Infinity pool suites, champagne breakfasts, designer shopping sprees disguised as conscious consumption. "Tell me, Tyler," I inquired with that feigned innocence mastered by those who see clearly, "how did you alchemize such material abundance? This experience must have required significant financial energy." He blushed slightly, exchanged that knowing glance with our parents, and responded that he had received unexpected gifts from the universe and benefited from some aligned financial opportunities. More spiritual bypassing masking deception. Always Tyler protected and privileged by this dysfunctional family system. This time, with money my parents believed they'd obtained by betraying their daughter's trust. That very week, the universe orchestrated what mystics call divine revelation. Thursday morning, Mother contacted me in a state of complete nervous system dysregulation. "Madison, you must come here immediately. This is what shamans would call a cosmic emergency." I arrived to discover my parents in full emotional disintegration. Father was pacing our hardwood floors like a caged animal, and Mother was weeping in patterns that suggested deep, unconscious material surfacing. "What's manifesting in your reality?" They then revealed the truth that would initiate my ultimate liberation. The gentleman who had purchased the ring, which they believed to be my authentic engagement symbol, had discovered it was a reproduction. He had returned, demanding energetic restitution and threatening legal action for conscious fraud. "Madison, we're navigating complete bewilderment," Mother sobbed. "It was your ring, the sacred symbol Marcus offered as your partnership container. How could it possibly be an illusion?" I embodied perfect stupefaction, You transmitted my ring to a stranger? How is this possible in your understanding of reality? The silence that followed carried the weight of their unconscious shadow material. Father attempted justification with that defensive rhetoric typical of exposed manipulators. Beloved daughter, we were traversing a period of financial challenges. Energy was contracting, and the opportunity presented itself to liberate the ring's monetary value. We believed you wouldn't perceive this temporary transition, that once your healing integration was complete, we'd manifest an identical symbol. And this financial energy? Toward what manifestations was it directed? Fresh silence, heavy with unconscious guilt. Mother responded, almost in confessional whisper. We co-created an expansion experience for Tyler, but it was meant to be a cosmic gift for our entire family constellation. We intended to reveal this magic during your post-operative integration. In that precise moment, I channeled what trauma therapists call authentic expression. Years of emotional conditioning erupting into conscious awareness. I voiced the rage of countless moments being unseen in my essence, the grief of never being prioritized, the devastation of having my darkest intuitions about family dysfunction confirmed by reality. You sacrificed my $175,000 sacred symbol to fund Tyler's hedonistic fantasies? Madison, we will realign this energetic disruption. We'll manifest another symbol for you. You can trust our intention for restoration. With what resources, Mother? You've just revealed that you're experiencing financial contraction and that the purchaser demands immediate restitution. The situation amplified exponentially. The ring's purchaser accepted no negotiation. He had invested $140,000 for that symbol, a price below market value, yet still a profound sum, and demanded immediate financial restoration. My parents possessed no such monetary energy. Tyler had completely consumed the resources during his Aegean odyssey, and they had no understanding of how to materialize $140,000 instantaneously. The solution was a high-interest consumer loan with energetically vampiric terms contracted under Father's credit. Yet even then, they couldn't gather the entirety. They had to sell their Prius and several pieces of mid-century modern furniture to complete this karmic debt. Throughout this disintegration process, lasting nearly a full lunar cycle, I continued embodying devastation over my ring's loss. Marcus, unaware of my protective strategy, was authentically grieved and promised we'd co-create another union symbol, even if it required years of conscious accumulation. But this cosmic teaching wasn't concluded. The loan my parents had manifested carried energetically crushing monthly obligations. Within several cycles, they found themselves drowning in financial karma. They had to release other possessions, drastically reduce their lifestyle, and Mother even found part-time work at a mindfulness center in Berkeley to contribute to their economic rebalancing. Tyler, perfect embodiment of privileged unconsciousness, undertook nothing to repair the imbalance he'd indirectly created. He continued draining parental energy, consuming freely, borrowing friends' vehicles, and existing as though this cosmic lesson didn't concern his evolution. In December, 3 months after this chaotic purification, Marcus and I finally celebrated our sacred union. The ceremony unfolded at a retreat center in Mendocino, simple yet profoundly aligned with our conscious values. My parents attended, attempting to radiate presence despite their catastrophic energetic situation. At the altar, when our officiant invoked the exchange of sacred symbols, Marcus manifested a box from his jacket. Within rested my true ring, the original $175,000 piece, emanating authentic luminosity. Marcus, I whispered with cosmic emotion, from where does this manifestation arise? He smiled with that wisdom characteristic of awakened partnerships. Madison, I co-created this ring 7 years ago. I know every vibrational frequency of this crystal. What your parents transmitted wasn't our sacred symbol. Our authentic ring has always been protected in financial sanctuary, awaiting this moment of revelation. It was then I unveiled the complete alchemy of my protective strategy, how I'd anticipated my parents' unconscious patterns, how I'd substituted the ring with a replica, how I'd witnessed this entire cosmic teaching unfold exactly according to my intuitive knowing. Marcus existed in total reverence before my strategic wisdom. Madison, you embody absolute mastery. You protected our sacred symbol while allowing the universe to deliver its divine justice. During our celebration, my parents approached offering congratulations. They were visibly uncomfortable, attempting to maintain appearances before our conscious community. Madison, precious one, we deeply regret this experience of misalignment. We hope you can transmute this energy toward forgiveness and family healing. I offered them my most radiant presents. Mother, Father, you've done nothing except reveal your authentic unconscious patterns. You've simply been genuinely yourselves without spiritual pretense. This response seemed to immerse them in confusion, but I felt no need for further elaboration. Following our union, Marcus and I co-created our sacred container. We initiated a new chapter of existence, liberated from my family's unconscious toxicity. I maintained minimal contact with my parents, brief energetic exchanges weekly, ceremonial visits during significant transitions. Their financial situation continued its downward spiral. The loan consumed nearly half of Father's academic salary, and they had to relocate to a smaller apartment in a less prestigious Berkeley neighborhood. Tyler, who had been energetically parasitizing parental resources without reciprocity, had to find his own living space. Possessing neither financial stability nor professional groundedness, he ended up sharing a studio apartment with someone he met at Burning Man. 1 year after our sacred union, I discovered I was carrying new life. Marcus and I existed in cosmic ecstasy. This would be our first child, and we were eager to co-create our regenerated family lineage. During my sacred pregnancy, my parents attempted to reconnect with my energy field. They began manifesting increased contact, offering assistance, desiring greater participation in my creation process. Madison, we recognize our unconscious patterns with you, but now you're embodying divine motherhood, and we're transitioning toward conscious grandparenthood. We would deeply treasure participating in our grandchild's soul journey. Their language was seductive, yet I could perceive their authentic motivations beneath spiritual terminology. I recognized that behind this sudden demonstration of care lay hidden agendas. They probably hoped Marcus and I would become their financial healers, or that our child would provide new sources of narcissistic supply for their depleted existence. Throughout this gestational period, other members of our family constellation began exerting energetic pressure for me to forgive my parents and restore family harmony. Aunts, cousins, family friends, all possessed opinions about how I should navigate these dynamics. Madison, they're your birth family. Blood bonds are sacred in our tradition. Every soul makes unconscious choices, dear one. The essential practice is learning to transmute toward forgiveness. Your child will need grandparents. Don't deprive them of that ancestral connection. Pressure intensified, especially as my body rounded with new life. At family gatherings, I always embodied the role of the unconscious one, the ungrateful daughter who couldn't forgive, who was navigating excessive spiritual rigidity. During a Thanksgiving gathering at my maternal grandmother's home in Marin County, the situation reached its transformational apex. Present were my parents, Tyler, several aunts, cousins, and some family constellation members. During our gratitude circle, my Aunt Patricia initiated yet another sermon about forgiveness and family healing. Madison, you're holding excessive energetic charge toward your parents. They made unconscious choices, but they've already learned significant lessons through natural consequences. Look at their current manifestation. Don't you feel compassion? I observed our family circle. Everyone was focusing their attention on me, expecting acquiescence to their collective pressure. My parents embodied victimhood, eyes downcast in spiritual performance. Tyler was scrolling through dating apps, completely detached from this family process. In that moment, I decided to initiate complete truth revelation. Aunt Patricia, since you're so concerned with cosmic justice and family healing, allow me to share with everyone what actually manifested. Energetic silence descended upon our gathering. My parents didn't sell my ring through survival necessity. They sacrificed my $175,000 sacred symbol to materialize 3 weeks of hedonistic luxury in Mykonos for Tyler. 3 weeks in a designer villa, Michelin-starred dining, private yacht experiences, shopping sprees disguised as spiritual awakening, all financed with money they believed they'd obtained by betraying the love symbol my partner had offered me. Our family circle began manifesting palpable energetic discomfort. But here's the most fascinating dimension of this cosmic teaching. I already knew my parents' authentic unconscious patterns. I recognized they were capable of this betrayal. That's why, days before my surgical procedure, I substituted my authentic ring with a replica costing $1,200. The ring they sold was perfect illusion. The impact of this revelation was instantaneous and transformational. My grandmother dropped her organic silverware onto her sustainable dinnerware. My aunts regarded each other in energetic shock. My parents became crimson with cosmic shame. When the purchaser discovered the ring was fictitious creation, my parents had to restore $140,000 they didn't possess. They contracted a loan with energetically vampiric interest, sold their vehicle, released inherited furniture. Mother had to find employment. They lost their social positioning and had to relocate to more modest space. Tyler finally lifted his attention from his phone with that expression of someone beginning to comprehend the cosmic amplitude of what had occurred. During this trial period, they'd self-created. I continued my personal evolution. I united with my authentic ring, which had always been protected in financial sanctuary. I co-created stable existence with my soul partner, liberated from family toxicity. And now I'm gestating our first child, who will evolve in an environment where they'll be loved unconditionally, not favored at the expense of others' well-being. The silence that followed carried all the density of revealed truth. No one understood how to respond to this alchemy of divine justice. So, Aunt Patricia, toward whom do you believe we should direct our compassion? Toward parents who betrayed their daughter's trust to fund their son's fantasies? Or toward the daughter who simply protected herself from unconscious patterns she'd already recognized? My aunt couldn't formulate a response. In truth, no family member could react authentically. I rose from our circle with sacred grace, gathered my energy, and departed my grandmother's home. Marcus, who had remained in conscious witness throughout this revelatory process, accompanied me. In our Tesla, he held my hand with that tenderness of awakened partnership. Madison, you embodied authentic truth-telling. These souls needed to receive this liberating revelation. I know, Marcus. I was exhausted from being perceived as the unconscious one in a family story where I was the most awake participant. After that revelatory Thanksgiving, everything transformed alchemically. Our entire family constellation integrated the details of what had manifested, and the narrative positioning my parents as misunderstood victims completely disintegrated. My parents lost the support and sympathy they'd been receiving from their social networks. Tyler became the subject of family whispers, the son who'd cost his parents their stability through unconscious consumption disguised as spiritual seeking. Some family members attempted to contact me to transmute their energy toward apology regarding the pressure they'd exerted, but I wasn't interested in regression. I'd made my conscious choice to release toxic bonds, and I was navigating in profound peace with this decision. My son was born 6 months later, a luminous and radiant being we named River. Marcus and I co-created our authentic family tradition based on unconditional love rather than favoritism and emotional manipulation. My parents attempted reconnection several times, especially after River's birth. They transmitted energetic messages through various platforms, manifested persistent calls, appeared at our residence entrance. But I'd integrated a fundamental teaching. Sometimes releasing bonds is the only path toward authentic peace. This wasn't about vengeance or resentment. This was about conscious self-preservation and co-creating healthy environment for our new family lineage. Today, 3 years after this initiation, I can affirm this was the most aligned decision of my existence. River evolves in a container where he's loved without conditions, where he doesn't need to compete for attention or affection. Marcus and I have manifested life based on authenticity, mutual reverence, and genuine love. I've learned through family channels that my parents continue navigating financial challenges. The loan remains unresolved, and they've never completely regenerated from the energetic shock they self-created. Tyler has also never stabilized professionally. He continues changing employment frequently, navigates temporary living situations, and occasionally depends on assistance from parents who can barely maintain their own equilibrium. Sometimes I connect with the question of whether I was too rigid, whether I should have forgiven and transcended this teaching. But then I observe my son playing in our garden, Witness Marcus returning from his practice with luminosity in his eyes. Feel the peace of our sacred home, and know with absolute certainty I embodied the conscious choice. My story doesn't speak of revenge. It speaks of cosmic justice and emotional alchemy. It speaks of recognizing toxic generational patterns and possessing courage to liberate oneself from unconscious repetition. It speaks of understanding that authentic family doesn't limit itself to genetic bonds. True family exists where unconditional love, mutual respect, and soul loyalty radiate freely. Today, I wear my engagement ring daily, not merely as symbol of my sacred partnership, but as reminder that I trusted my intuitive wisdom and protected myself when my emotional survival depended upon clear seeing. $175,000 doesn't purchase merely a diamond. It materializes the teaching that our feminine intuition never deceives us when we're willing to listen deeply. And each day that flows, co-creating my life liberated from family toxicity, I'm increasingly certain that sometimes the greatest demonstration of self-love consists in knowing when to say no, when to release poisoned bonds, and when to choose personal peace over others' approval. This is my transformation story. An odyssey of betrayal, discovery, silent justice, and above all, alchemical liberation. Proof that we needn't always struggle against injustice. Sometimes it suffices to be wise enough not to become its victim, and intuitive enough to transform every trial into a portal toward our authenticity.